Today, we're diving into a scenario straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. What would happen if the moon were destroyed? Imagine a world where the tides are so weak they can't even sustain waves, and GPS systems are more lost than a tourist without Google Maps. From the devastation of marine ecosystems to serious complications in our tech and navigation systems, not to mention extreme climate changes and an unstable Earth axis. It would be total chaos. And the last thing we're going to talk about here is really astonishing. So if you want to find out, stay with us until the end of the video. Let's take off, because today, we're going out of this world. Explosion and crater detonating a nuclear bomb on the moon would initially result in a violent explosion that would immediately turn the lunar material, mainly regolith and rocks, into plasma, vaporizing everything within a specific radius from the impact point. This vaporization would result in the formation of a crater, the size and depth of which would be directly proportional to the yield of the bomb used. For instance, a several megaton bomb could create a crater several kilometers in diameter and significantly deep, exposing underground layers never seen before. This process is analogous to meteorite impacts, but with energy released controlled and predetermined by the bomb. After the initial moment of the explosion, the material adjacent to the impact point would be thrust outward with extreme force, enlarging the initially formed crater from the direct blast. This displaced material would permanently alter the local lunar topography. The crater formation wouldn't just be a surface phenomenon, it would also involve shifting of internal layers, potentially revealing valuable geological information about the moon's composition and geological history, providing crucial data for scientific studies. Besides the main crater, the explosion would also create a series of secondary features around the impact. This would include the formation of trenches, mounds, and possibly even a complex network of cracks in the lunar regolith. These features are typical of high-magnitude explosions, especially on celestial bodies without an atmosphere, where the ejected material is not contained or slowed by atmospheric resistance. These secondary features would be studied to better understand the dynamics of the impact and the subsequent processes occurring in low-gravity environments like that of the moon. The detonation of a nuclear bomb on the moon would cause the massive ejection of lunar material, including regolith, dust, and rock fragments. This material, being violently expelled from the impact point, would scatter in various directions due to the moon's low gravity. The amount of material ejected and the distance it would reach would depend on the bomb's yield. This phenomenon would be similar to that observed in terrestrial explosions, but amplified by the absence of an atmosphere on the moon, allowing debris to travel further and faster than it would on Earth. The ejection of material would not only alter the immediate landscape around the explosion site, but could also have broader impacts on the lunar surface. As the debris fell back to the surface, they would create a debris field that could cover an extensive area, depending on the magnitude of the explosion. This debris would reconfigure the local topography, creating new depressions and elevations on the lunar terrain. Moreover, the redistribution of lunar material could affect the moon's albedo, its ability to reflect sunlight, which would be observable from Earth and could influence lunar lighting conditions. Part of the material ejected during the explosion might reach velocities sufficient to escape the moon's gravity or enter orbit around it. This could result in the formation of a temporary ring of debris around the moon, similar to the rings of planets like Saturn, although much less dense and short-lived. The formation of such a ring would be of great scientific interest, as it would provide a natural study on the orbital dynamics of debris in a low-gravity environment. But what if, with all this impact, the moon were destroyed? The destruction of the moon would cause a drastic reduction in oceanic tidal amplitudes, deeply affecting coastal and marine ecosystems. The tide is a crucial factor for nutrient renewal in intertidal zones, supporting a diversity of life that depends on these cycles for feeding and reproduction. With significantly smaller tides, wetlands and estuaries, which are vital nurseries for many fish and marine birds, would suffer from a lack of water and nutrients, potentially leading to a loss of biodiversity. Moreover, changes in ocean current patterns would affect the global distribution of heat and nutrients in the oceans, impacting global climate and the dynamics of aquatic ecosystems on a global scale. Without the stabilizing influence of the moon, Earth's axis of inclination would become erratically variable, which could lead to extreme and unpredictable climate changes. The seasons as we know them could swing between more pronounced extremes, with much hotter summers and much colder winters, making many currently habitable areas extremely challenging for human and animal life. The instability of Earth's axis would also increase the likelihood of severe weather events, including superstorms, prolonged droughts, and devastating heat waves, with direct impacts on agriculture, housing, and the sustainability of human populations. The absence of the moon would have direct consequences for modern technology, especially in navigation and global communication systems. Systems like GPS, which rely on the moon's gravitational stability for calibration, would face significant difficulties, requiring complex adjustments to maintain accuracy. This could result in a challenging technological transition period, with potential failures in air, sea, and land navigation. Additionally, the absence of the moon would affect radio transmissions and other communications that depend on space conditions influenced by the lunar presence, possibly leading to disruptions and inconsistencies in signal reception. Other curiosities and impacts include changes in defense strategies and space monitoring, as the moon serves as a reference point and a potential base for space exploration and planetary defense. Without the moon, Earth would lose a partial shield against meteors and other space debris. The altered gravitational dynamics could also influence the orbit of natural and artificial satellites, potentially leading to a higher incidence of space collisions. Here's an interesting curiosity. The absence of the moon could also cause deregulation in the biological clocks of plants, which use moonlight to adjust their growth cycles and development. This could result in a mismatch between the times of flowering and the ideal environmental conditions, such as temperature and humidity, essential for optimizing growth. Without proper synchronization, we could see a reduction in the quality and quantity of crops, directly affecting the availability of food in global markets. This would necessitate adjusting planting and harvesting calendars, which could directly impact the productivity and efficiency of agricultural practices. Additionally, the need to adapt traditional agricultural practices could require the development and adoption of new technologies and cultivation methods. This would involve significant research and innovation to create systems that compensate for the lack of lunar influence, demanding substantial investments in agricultural science. The transition to these new practices could be costly and complex, representing an economic challenge for farmers and communities that depend on traditional agriculture. We're coming to the end of our video, where we explored together an extremely theoretical and, in a way, frightening scenario. What would happen if we detonated nuclear bombs on the moon? But it's important to stress that this is just a scientific imagination exercise. We have no intention whatsoever of destroying the moon. Quite the opposite. The moon is a fascinating celestial body that has intrigued and inspired generations over time. We want to learn more about it, study it more deeply, and better understand our place in the cosmos in relation to it. This type of theoretical discussion helps us appreciate even more the importance of the moon to Earth and recognize the many ways it affects our daily life, our planet, and the space environment. It's a reminder of how vital it is to proceed with peaceful exploration and study of celestial bodies. If you enjoyed this video and want to follow more fascinating explorations and discussions about space and other scientific topics, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This way, you'll stay informed about all our content and help the community grow. Until next time, and let's continue together on our journey of discovery and learning.